Bankruptcies we've covered in this grim U.S. economy, this one gets your attention.
Back in the November of 2011, NBC's nightly news experienced this bit of technical hijinks.
Though perhaps not something special anymore. We'd love to make this stop. Why don't you take it from our Washington bureau?
Well, I'm glad.
And even after the commercial break, the problem persisted.
We press on nonetheless with tonight's broadcast, and that means we're back with the...
You know what makes this all the funnier is the fact that Williams used to be a volunteer fireman. So I guess the lesson to take away from this, kids, is when faced with a fire, stop, drop, and continue to read the news.
Because we are still dealing with this fire alarm problem in New York.
You know, I always wonder what kind of effect that high-pitched screeching had on the hearing aids of NBC's audience. In June of this year, NBC's Andrea Mitchell got suckered into parroting talking points from the Cuban government. You know that government that likes to censor its own press to maintain a one-party state headed by an authoritarian dictator? Yeah, that one. Well, among these talking points was the very odd claim that the Cuban government was somehow protecting America from cyber attacks and drug traffickers.
In a last-minute appeal, Cuban officials are touting that they've made America safer from cyber attacks and drug traffickers.
Mitchell then took us to what she called a cyber command outpost.
Taking us to what looked like a normal house, but is really a cyber command post.
Ah, I see, this must be where they keep us safe.
Cooperation, they say, is now at risk.
Mitchell has a long history of being a commie shill. Like when Fidel Castro died in November 2016, she went to Cuba to essentially mourn his death.
And he was a voracious reader, questioning me about politics and about the economy back in the U.S., and very, very aware of everything that was going on. Very, very smart and very wedded to his revolutionary ideology.
I don't know what it is with these NBC journos having a soft spot for communism.
Life wasn't easy, but the government provided for the people. All of that came to an end when the Soviet Union collapsed. Areas like this never recovered.
It's almost like this Marxist utopia didn't kill tens of millions of people.
But you're expecting even a greater wave of patriotism here in the United States in this particular time than other countries have shown when they've hosted the games.
Well, you know, I don't know than other countries, but I certainly expect the stands to be rocking. I expect the flags to be flying.
But we have to also be careful and draw a line not to let our patriotism get in the way of the games in general.
You know what? Matt Lauer is right. You Americans are always ruining the Olympics for the rest of us with all your patriotism and love of country. It's the current fucking year. Can't you just hate yourselves and be more like France or Sweden or something?
Macron coming out to the theme tune of the European Union.
Anyway, back to the excrement.
Obviously, the opening ceremony, the games themselves, will be very patriotic in feel. And yet, sometimes the international community can interpret that as arrogant nationalism. Obviously, you've got to balance those two things. Are you all, clearly, you're mindful of that. How are you?
Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with the host of InfoWars, Alex Jones.
We know we're under attack! We know it! We're breaking the conditioning!
And the claim that he made about the Sandy Hook massacre being a staged false flag operation.
Sandy Hook is a synthetic, completely fake, with actors.
A claim that is more likely motivated by the fact that Alex Jones is a nutjob conspiracy theorist, rather than wanting to deliberately cause distress to the victims' families. But that didn't stop NBC from opening up old wounds in order to promote their interview between Megyn Kelly and Alex Jones.
Sandy Hook.
Well, Sandy Hook's complex because I've had debates where we've devil's advocates said the whole story's true.
Selectively editing a promo clip to paint Jones in the worst possible light.
You say parents faked their children's death. People get very angry.
Yeah, well, that's all I know.
Mentioning his fallacious claims on Sandy Hook, despite Jones having largely dropped the issue. Now he admits that people probably were killed, and he sympathizes with the victims' parents.
I can see how people that look at all this evidence say no kids died there, and this whole thing's a giant hoax. But at the same time, there is some evidence people died there. They take that out of context and misrepresent it. I know there are real mass shootings. I know people lose children. I'm a father. It hurts my heart.
It's probably also worth adding that Jones is now regarded as something of a traitor to the Sandy Hook truther movement. Now his official stance is,
I don't know what really happened.
the faux outrage did nothing but succeed in create real outrage, but unfortunately did not return the ratings for Meghan's show. What's more, it even caused NBC to lose advertisers such as JP Morgan and Chase. I guess CNN isn't the only news network to shoot itself in the foot.
I just fucking shot myself.
About this president, the very idea of this man, this product of Kenya and Kansas by way of Hawaii and Asia, as our 44th president, is still so very new. And he is so different from all the men who've gone before him. People react strongly to this president. We've seen people move to tears after just the briefest encounter with him.
Now this actually might not be something that stood out at the time, particularly since practically everyone and their grandmother regarded Barack Obama as Super Jesus immediately following his 2008 Hope and Change campaign. The media were sycophantic in their coverage of the president.
Everything he's done is clean as a whistle. He's never not only broken any law, he's never done anything wrong.
A lot of things are just perfect about Barack Obama.
He's the perfect father, the perfect husband, the perfect American.
It amazes me that people don't love Obama.
And NBC, of course, was no exception.
Your operating thesis has been, to paraphrase, I've got this. You hear a lot of people expressing concern that our new president is taking on too much. It's been an eventful 100+ days.
Just imagine if they acted like that these days. Look, you see that shit? He actually bowed to him. Hey, Brian, you got something on your nose! You might want to wipe that off there. Yeah. NBC's coverage of the tragic events surrounding Charlottesville is... all I can say is... wow. First, the network grilled the president for not specifically calling out white nationalism for the violence. Jeez, I love it they did that for Obama every time he refused to say the words radical Islamic terror. And his violence on many sides comments. Hey morons! There is violence on many sides. Did you blame Obama for the BLM shootings last year? Then NBC told us that they wouldn't provide a platform for white nationalists.
While we don't want to provide a platform for these fringe voices, it's
just as they provide a platform for white nationalists.
Self-proclaimed white nationalist Matthew Heimbach helped organize the Charlottesville rally and is planning one in Lexington.
We're standing up for white folks that deserve a voice.
Richard Spencer, speaking on Israeli TV, says the movement has grown since President Trump's election.
No doubt. Our movement is winning.
But the dumbest, bullshittiest bit of fake news to come out of NBC following Charlottesville was when NBC's terrorism analyst Malcolm Nance appeared on sister network MSNBC to suggest that the Barcelona ISIS terror attack was in fact a copycat of that of Alex Fields Jr.
Interestingly enough, with the intensity of information that we've had related to the Charlottesville incident over the last 5 days, it's quite possible that may have precipitated this terrorist group's desire to gain the limelight and carry out a similar attack.
Yep, this really happened, folks. The treasure trove of Democratic National Committee emails released by WikiLeaks in October 2016 included evidence of at least 65 mainstream media personalities meeting and coordinating with the Clinton campaign. Among them was NBC's Chuck Todd, who corresponded with DNC chairperson Debbie Wasserman Schultz over his negative coverage of Old Hill Dog, with one email entitled even, "Chuck, this must stop." Todd wasn't even the only one at NBC to collude with Old Crooked. The network's senior political editor too, Mark Murray, was also in on it. Both Todd and Murray, among other things, agreed to stop using words like risky when referring to Donald Trump, instead using words like dangerous, as risky would imply a potential upside to his presidency. In 2012, after the shooting of Trayvon Martin, NBC aired this footage of George Zimmerman's 911 call to the police.
This guy looks like he's up to no good. He looks black.
Did you see what he was wearing?
Yeah, a dark hood.
Only thing is, the tape was edited. Here's NBC's audio versus the original audio from the call.
This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something. It's raining and he's just walking around looking about.
Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He looks black.
As you might have noticed, it was in fact the 911 operator who asked Zimmerman about Martin's race, something NBC conveniently edited out. As if racial tensions weren't bad enough following the shooting. Brian Williams here again for this one. As I covered in my video The Top 20 MSNBC Fails, Williams, who has since moved from NBC, kept up a 12-year-long charade lying about his experience as a reporter in Iraq. In 2003, he aired this segment on the Iraq War where he claimed the Chinook helicopter he was flying in was hit by an Iraqi rocket-propelled grenade and forced into an emergency landing.
Almost blown out of the sky. That hole was made by a rocket-propelled grenade, or RPG.
However, the flight engineer Lance Reynolds, who was aboard the Chinook in front of Williams, says that it was in fact his helicopter that was forced into the emergency landing, adding that Williams landed an hour and a half later. Then as late as 2013, Williams kept digging his holes, saying to David Letterman,
2 of our 4 helicopters were hit by ground fire, including the one I was in.
No kidding.
RPG and AK-47.
What happens the minute everybody realizes you've been hit?
We figure out how to land.
Then 2 years after that, he made another fallacious claim, this time saying that he flew into Baghdad with SEAL Team 6. Despite the fact that the SEALs don't embed journalists, Williams' tall tale ended with him getting fired from NBC. Or rather, moved to another network where hopefully nobody would notice. And at number 1, we have the infamous Chevrolet car explosion. So, back in 1992, Dateline NBC aired an investigative report entitled Waiting to Explode, supposedly pointing out an apparent flaw in General Motors vehicles that caused them to burst into flames like a low-budget 80s action movie.
To see for ourselves what might happen in a side impact crash, Dateline NBC hired the Institute for Safety Analysis to conduct crash demonstrations. Unlike GM tests, the fuel tanks were filled with real gasoline. Look what happened.
Turns out that flaw had something to do with the engine. See, when you stick a couple of bottle rockets in there and a little bit of gasoline, the thing just kinda breaks. And yeah, it'll burst into flames like a low-budget 80s action movie. It's really dangerous to drivers. Anyway, NBC were sued by General Motors and forced to air a retraction.
NBC's contractor did put incendiary devices under the trucks to ensure that there would be a fire if gasoline were released from the truck's gas tank.
We said the crash, quote, forced gasoline to spew from the fuel cap, end quote. GM says since the gas cap was the wrong cap for the GM filler tube, and because the gas tank was overfilled, the cap came off when the impact occurred.
And while NBC hasn't faked any news quite as bad as this since, I want each and every one of you to remember that this actually happened. These hacks literally took the time and money to stage a car explosion. And if the fake media would go through these lengths to mislead you about something like this, can you really trust them about anything else?
We agree with GM that we should have told our viewers about these devices.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you like this video and you feel like you've been thoroughly disinformed, please hit that like button, and if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. Also remember to follow me on Twitter. Social media links, as always, are in the description.